count to 3.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
You have found Daniel Donato's Lost Highway.
that lost highway.
Howdy, y'all. We are here. We have arrived at the Lost Highway, the podcast of all things cosmic country, here in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you guys for tuning in. Had a lot going on this past week. Had several projects I was working on. Did 5 co-writing sessions. Had 2 4-hour shows because Nashville is opening up the opportunity for live music to be a real thing again. And the most important thing of all is I was really focused on this 3-part video sequence that's going to accompany the new Cosmic Country album. Through all of this isolation that happened in 2020, not only did it fly by, I had a couple realizations that flew and hit me in the head. And one of them was that my life, my story, so far in life, I'm about to be 26, kind of falls into this 3-act structure that you've seen in many movies, which kind of is like the life simulation concept. And the 3-act structure is where there's a call to power, there's a recognition of potential. 2, there is perhaps chaos that is going to get in the way of you fulfilling your potential. And then part 3 is when the potential is achieved and you've learned your lesson. The hero has learned their lesson that you go through chaos and you go through discipline and you go through life friction in order to attain the things that you want. And my story of busking on the street when I was 14 for 8 hours a day, discovering this very obscure but very well-known house band at this crazy bar, honky tonk, called Robert's Western World, and discovering what country music was, what bluegrass music, outlaw country, Americana, country funk, Texas country, Bakersfield country, all these kinds of country music through this band. Going and seeing that band every weekend, and I would give them my business card and say, I want to play in your band. I know all 80 songs that you guys do, and I don't mind playing for 4 hours a night, 4 days a week like you guys do. I want to do it even though I'm 16, 17. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't care. I did have a girlfriend at the time, but I dumped her at the Williamson County State Fair to go play a show with this band. They eventually called me to play in their band. I was the youngest guy to ever do it. They had all these legendary players play in their band. And so I learned a lot in my 2,000 plus hours of playing at Robert's Western World with the Don Kelly Band. And I want to tell that in a story now, because now my new goal is to take the cosmic country sound, my version of it that I've developed and through experience and been still developing and still learning. I want to take that and I want to sell it to Ryman with it. That's the goal now. And I want to kind of make an observation through content on how a goal can become to be a reality, just as it already has in my life, and now how I'm projecting a new goal. And so I wanted to be really focused on that this past week, and hence why I didn't do another podcast. Again, I'm turning 26 soon, so I've looked back at these first 5 years of my 20s, and I realized I probably took on too many things and turned too many songs in, played too many shows, and might have just not been present enough and taking on too many things in hopes to fulfill the hustle, quote unquote. I think it's a quality, not quantity thing. But always be working hard. So that's what's going on right now. 2 reasons why I mentioned that is because 1, I want to get you guys excited about this new Cosmic Country album, and 2, because I think leaning into who you are as an individual and finding power in your authenticity, which requires you to love yourself and be empathetic with yourself, is not part of the general dialogue that's going on today with creating things and working hard. So that's what's going on behind this record. Only individuality and trying to be authentic. Achieving authenticity, I don't know, but that's at least the mission statement. And then 2, doing that through content as well. I just want to get that through to you guys. So thank you guys for listening. This is going to be a fantastic episode today. Feel free to support the podcast on Patreon. Feel free to support the podcast on, follow the podcast on Spotify, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, join the Cosmic Country Club. I don't get why you wouldn't be in the Cosmic Country Club, because we're about to tour this year. We're about to release new merchandise. We have a new album coming out, all kinds of things that are going to help enhance the positive framework that operates within your mind, both musically, through content, and all kinds of things. It's free. You guys will dig it. Stay patient, stay persistent, stay positive. My next guest today is Miss Ashley Campbell, incredibly talented, well-spoken, graceful, and also very funny. I loved this conversation. I discovered Ashley when I was randomly going through Spotify radio and one of her songs came on, like an Alison Krauss radio station. I was jogging in the morning. And she just has this very friendly and playful sound when she plays music, and I hear it in her songwriting, and I love the youthful energy that music is a reality for, and she very much so dwells in that space. This was a wonderful conversation. I just hit her up randomly on Instagram before. We had never met before. We talked about hairless cats, bluegrass music, what makes country music very stellar, and a lot of also deep things as well, like self-love and empathy, and fantastic cosmic conversation with truly the one and only Miss Ashley Campbell. Ashley, thank you for taking the time to talk today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a real treat.
Yeah, I discovered your music by accident. I was even though it's very cold in Nashville right now, I still like try to get out and run in the mornings. And I think it was one of your songs. I'm looking at your album right now, and I can't remember which one it was, but I've just gotten into Something Lovely, like as a big fan since then. This might have been a couple weeks ago, like when I reached out to you. And I ran this song by my friend D. White, and he was like, I wrote with her once. And so I wanted to know, do you remember writing with D, and if you guys got a good song at all?
Oh my gosh, I would have to look through the archives because, I moved to Nashville in 2013 and I got a publishing deal with Warner Chappell, and they were setting me up with like 5 writes a week.
That's absurd. You can't write that many songs.
I met a lot of people in those first couple months, and, it was a whirlwind. So I remember the name D. White. So I'm going to look through my my lyrics and see if D. White's written in any of those as the writer, because I'm curious.
Yeah, he said y'all wrote a really good song. I think he said you played banjo in the co-write, which was kind of like in Nashville, a lot of people don't bring banjos to co-writes, and I think that's really cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I try to switch it up every once in a while.
That instrument is the ultimate way of switching things up, because it's just the tuning on it's so interesting, right? It's like it's an open tuning, right? And the high string, like you rarely hit that top high string. Is that correct? I have no experience playing banjo. I'm a complete tourist.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, it's attuned to open G generally, and the high string throws people off who are used to the string closest to your face being the lowest. Especially bass players. My bass player friend was like, I don't know, take this witchcraft away. Like, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, changing up the instruments really like brings a different vibe to a song, and you might write a totally different song than you would have written on two guitars,
Guitar can be really predictable. Like you can really allow it to become something that's very predictable, especially if it's just the acoustic guitar and you're staying in standard tuning. Have you always done banjo? I was watching old videos of you and you seem to like have always played that instrument.
I didn't even start playing banjo till I was about like 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
But I've been playing. Yeah.
How old are you now?
Oh God, I'm 34.
That's great. That's not an oh God. That's a great age. That's fantastic. That's perfect.
Oh, I know. I love being 34. It's fucking awesome.
Is it so? Like, why is being 34 better than being 21?
For me, it is because I know so much more about myself, and I'm so much more comfortable with who I am, and I love, like, when I turned 30, I was so excited. Like I felt so free, and I feel like as each year goes on, some people get it a lot earlier, but I've always been kind of a late bloomer, but I just lose my give a shit every year. And the less you care about what others think of you, the better you become, I think.
I know. That's like, so I was born with this, I don't even know what it is, but like on my earliest report cards, it was always like, Daniel talks too much. Daniel tries to be the center of attention. Daniel is like trying to be the leader in class. And it manifested from like kindergarten all the way up until like when I graduated high school. And it's simply this thing I can't stop. And it's just like, you just have to stop giving a shit eventually and just be who you are. That's a really
Exactly.
fantastic thing. That's beautiful. And so did you have that like your whole life of not giving a shit, or was it like entering your 30s that allowed you to kind of embrace that?
It was really, and like as I entered my 30s, like I said, I'm a late bloomer, so I used to care way too much what people thought. Like
Mm,
so much so that I think it stunted me in like becoming more original and even enjoying myself, like to some extent. Like, and I think that's a larger problem within a lot of our culture is like we care so much about what other people think and other people's opinions, but we are seeing, which is I think is really great. We're seeing a real step forward in popular culture and social media where people are celebrating all types of body shapes and
yeah.
originality
Yeah.
and gender identity, and
Yeah.
I just think it's great, but I grew up in a time when it was just like, oh, you're not a cheerleader, you know.
That's very true. I grew up in a town in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and it was like it's a big like football town and a Christian town. And I went to church like one time growing up. My mom's Jewish. My parents are from the Northeast, so they don't get Southern culture. And so there was none of that like in my household. There were a couple of years there I didn't know how to relate to people really. And guitar and music allowed me to relate to myself more, and that allows you to relate to more people when you're more comfortable in your own skin. But there is that pressure, whether it's on social media or whether it's like in the people you interact with in like a peer community way, to kind of like play the game of normality and be yourself and like not really be yourself. But it seems like the older we get, we're like you have the opportunity to really embrace being yourself more. You mentioned like
Yeah.
it's very cool seeing how culture is reflecting on embracing multiple body types and just people who they are. Like I saw recently, like Johnson and Johnson stopped like something for their 2021 ads. They're not doing like any like photoshopping or anything crazy. And then they're focusing on hiring like plus size models for a lot of their ads, and they're focusing on bringing in other races, and they're focusing on bringing in more of a variety of people as opposed to like advertising like this kind of stereotype of a person that's not really achievable. That's the thing that scares me about like TikTok and Snapchat. Like my 9-year-old sister like seeing filters on her face and her like being insecure that
Oh,
she doesn't
no.
look like that.
Oh gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's a weird
Yeah.
thing. It's a weird, it's very strange. But man, I mean, like in terms of like you like expressing who you are and doing that on an individual level, that's really cool. Like you do a fantastic job of doing that. Is that something you're conscious of on social media? Are you trying to like make a point to be honest and be transparent about those things?
Yeah, absolutely. I never try to be quote unquote cool or anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
I just try and be myself, which is this
Yeah.
person who's come from a lot of different backgrounds. Like I used to do comedy in LA. Like I wasn't always a musician. So I be very silly on my Instagram or whatever. I don't worry about looking good or anything like that. Obviously you take care of yourself and you love yourself, but I don't always wear makeup and
Mm.
anything like that. And
Yeah, I don't either.
yeah, I could tell, you have very natural, you don't need it, honey.
That's cool. You did comedy. Like, I have listened to comedy on a daily basis since I was like 9 or 10 years old. Before I even got into music, my dad made it a big point to make sure that I always listen to comedians, because there's a kind of, they have like a permission to really criticize perhaps the more ostentatious, odd things that society is kind of implying on people, and comedians can kind of poke fun at it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you've ever read, Steve Martin he wrote a book, he wrote an autobiography called
Oh
Born
yeah.
Standing Up. And it's so interesting, but he said, I was always worried about running out of material. And I think this applies to songwriting too. But he said, comedy is a reflection of what's happening right now. And there will always be something happening right now. And so I've kind of
Oh,
applied that to all aspects of creativity,
whoa. That's really cool. I'm writing that down because that's very nice. I like little simple, like I think Einstein said it, like if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it. And it's like, that is really so true. Comedy is a representation of something that's happening right now. And yeah, but that's hard because not everybody wants to be brave enough to be present and observe what's really happening.
Yeah. And I don't know, this year has been such a crazy year politically, especially. And I've started posting more of my political views. And even, I don't even consider like the Black Lives Matter protests. I don't consider that a political view. I consider that a human rights view. And maybe you wouldn't be surprised at how much backlash I got from some, let's say, right-wing fans that just said, I'm unfollowing you. I thought you were better than that, And you're just like, I don't care,
Yeah.
I try not to post political things like I hate Trump, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But because that is polarizing, but I post things that matter to me,
Yeah.
And people say, oh, shut up and just sing your music, like they said to the Dixie Chicks. And it's like, that's never been what music is about. Look at the 60s, with the Vietnam War, and those people probably love those artists, like the Doors and Buffalo Springfield, they were very political, and you love their music.
And you love their music. And even if you don't know who they are, you know the songs they wrote. And that's really the interesting thing, is to see like when an artist or a band stop like manifesting and they stop creating records, or they literally die or something like that. The songs carry on, right? And they get covered and they get played in bars, and they get played on jukeboxes when you're at some dive bar with your friends, or before COVID, or when you're at like a tapas bar, like the other night with my girlfriend, like Good Time Charlie's Got the Blues came on. I'm like, I guarantee no one in here really gets the Vietnam reference about this, because no one was listening. And, it's just like, it's funny to see how truth manifests in song, and then it keeps lingering forever. And it's like, that really is the truest thing of what you're saying, is like a human rights movement is way bigger than like a political ideology or an agenda. And that's really like, should be like, if you're trying to promote human rights, that's way more true and genuine than trying to promote your political partisan stance on social media, when rightfully so, like a large part of your audience is subscribing to you based on your music. But like, everyone believes like, human rights exists outside of a political sphere, like largely. When you get into our country, it gets a little strange, but it's true. It's like, it's very funny. Like, I watched this interview the other day, or this documentary on the pygmies in Africa. And like, these people have like no clothes. They have like no shoes. Like, they don't know what Yeezys are. They don't know about Louis Vuitton. Like, they don't know anything. And it's like, they don't know iPhones or Angry Birds. And it's like, their ideas of rights and their ideas of love and their ideas of the meaning of life were very similar to, I'm going to be 26 this year. So, we have an 8-year difference, which isn't very large. Like, within our generation, like, we're born in a world difference from the pygmies, but yet we still render similar agendas and ideologies on what makes a happy human existence. And I think it's kind of funny, like, when you mention those things on social media, people make it political. Like, that's a little interesting. Like, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Oh gosh.
Like, how do you respond when people are like, why don't you just play banjo and shut up?
I have responded. I don't always respond, because sometimes there's no helping people, but I will respond sometimes. This one in particular, if I can remember my own quote correctly, it was something like, okay, go ahead and unfollow me. I'm just expressing an opinion. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just expressing something that I am for.
Right.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of your life, where you have no contrary opinions in your life, and you will never grow and you will never learn. Enjoy your life, sir.
Yeah. It's true. It's like, it's very, very scary, the fact that we can live in these like feedback cycles of what we only think is correct. And that, even musically, like, not even talking about politics, if you only listen to music that you think is good and is only within your domain of expertise within a small genre, you're going to sound bland, and you're not going to sound alive, and you're not going to sound inspired. So like, why would the domain of political ideology and how you are as a person not be the exact same? It's like, you have to have conversations with people that feel a little bit differently than you, because that's what life's all about.
Yeah, and I think as long as we do it in an intelligent and logical and what's the word? Courteous way, you know, but it often turns into these shouting matches,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden we're focusing on correcting the misuse of they, their, theirs, you know, which is the most common thing. There, that apostrophe, you know.
That's a hard one. I'm a little ashamed every time I still have to Google some of those, like it's versus it's.
Oh yeah, I think about that all the time. I was actually just thinking about it because I was writing in a journal, and I was like, okay, it's I think it's without the apostrophe, it's possessive, but with the apostrophe, it is, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is so contrary. It's like, what's the deal there? Who like, was that Ralph Waldo Emerson just trying to be a dick? Like, what's he
Probably.
like? Like, so I think you mentioned, I want to get to journaling because I really have always thought about that in a way, and it's evolved in my life in different ways, going from digital to writing it down. But on the one thing here, I think, as opposed to saying people hate Trump or they hate Joe Biden, why do we talk about the people we hate? It's like the concept of like, if you want to stop war, don't say no war, say yes, peace. It's like, why even acknowledge the fact that that is a cat? What do we got going on here? That's great.
Tea. Hey, buddy.
I really want a hairless cat. I don't know if you've ever messed around with those.
I want one so bad.
They seem so cool.
Everyone's like, they're so ugly. I'm like, no, they're adorable and weird and cute.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think cuteness and weirdness can absolutely be parallel.
Yeah, I love them. And the same with those like hairless, whatever, like weird dogs. The one from
Mexico.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Yeah.
How to lose
the hairless Chihuahua.
What's How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Oh, it's like it's Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. It's a cute little romantic comedy, but she's like a journalist and she's trying to see, you know, she's dating this guy and she's like, she's doing all the stereotypes of why guys break up with girls, and she's trying them all on this guy and he has no idea. And they've been dating for a couple days and she gets a dog. She's like, it's our dog. And it's that the hairless dog. And he's like, oh my God. It's so good.
It's funny to hear.
My friend has a hairless Chihuahua.
Oh wait, a hairless Chihuahua. Chihuahuas.
Yeah, her name is Saucer.
Have you ever been to Mexico?
Yeah.
Have you seen wild Chihuahuas out in Mexico? Have you ever encountered them?
Never.
My God. They are vicious dogs. There was a festival I was playing in Mexico in 2019 in Todos Santos, which is like Baja area. And my God, like these Chihuahuas, like I'll go for a run in the morning and they just like kind of hop out of like this like aloe vera plant out of nowhere and they just bite your heels. Like they're mean big dogs.
Ankles beware. Yeah. Oh my God.
I had a dog.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, they can be. You know, whatever. We definitely like, so when we were living in New Jersey, we lived in like across the street from this graveyard in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And we had dozens and dozens of cats. We had loads of German Shepherds. I'm kind of loving life without dogs right now. Like not having that responsibility.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, it's all right. Like I know I'll get one day. I don't know. We had a Chihuahua too for like I think he lived to be about 13 years old. They're really good dogs, despite how they might be in the Matthew McConaughey movie. I'm not exactly sure, although I'm a huge fan of him.
Oh, that wasn't a Chihuahua. Yeah, but yeah, I have a miniature Schnauzer.
How does that happen? How does the Schnauzer get miniature? Aren't those large dogs?
They started miniature.
They start small.
They were bred. They start small. I think they're a German breed, and they were bred to hunt rats. So my dog goes crazy when he sees a squirrel. You know, it's like his instincts kick in.
That's what people don't get. They like try to dress their dogs up in sweaters and they act like they're not vicious murderers. Like they are. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They want to kill things.
Yeah, Frodo is a very noble beast.
Frodo. So you're a J.R. Tolkien fan?
100%. Yeah.
Oh my God, me too. I am a massive fan. Like way more so than Star Wars. Do I like Lord of the Rings? Like it's not even
totally. Me too. No contest whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. People are like hate on Lord of the Rings. They're like the animation's not that good. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you even saying? Like, have you read any of the books? Like, you don't.
Yeah, but the animation, I mean, even today, like the Smeagol CGI stands up. Like,
Yeah, it does.
it really holds up.
Smeagol is an amazing. I relate to Smeagol all the time because I totally feel like him. Like, it's that back and forth of having this one desire in life, of having like the goal, the precious, and feel like last year's COVID pandemic quarantine allowed me to re-examine my goals and be like, you don't need this one thing that you're trying to attain in life. And it's like that whole Smeagol character is very much so relatable. It's a relatable guy, oddly enough.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, as far as last year, like when you're the thing that you do that you identify yourself as, music, playing live shows, that's our identity, and that was taken away from us for a whole year, and still ongoing. We don't, I mean, in Nashville it's still open. I'm actually in Northern Ireland right now.
Whoa,
and
that's awesome. Totally locked
down. But like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But touring is still like kind of off the table for us all. And I had a huge crisis of identity over last year, and it was a very good thing for me. Finding the silver lining. But I started thinking, okay, well, what is life without music? Without like that aspect of music? I still play music at home, but what do I find joy in, and what are my goals outside of music? And so it's opened up a world for me, and I've started doing a lot more things just for pleasure. It's not all about what can I accomplish today. It's about how can I enjoy today. So I've read a lot of books, and I've actually kind of decided, since this year is still kind of so iffy as far as making plans, I'm going to try and live in Europe this year.
Ooh, that's great. That's really awesome. I love Europe. We went there in October of 2019 for about 14 days. And it was just like an absolutely fantastic time. Really was. It was beautiful. Never been to Ireland. What's your synopsis on Ireland? What's the vibe there? How are the people?
I love Ireland. So I actually did an 11-day tour here back in 2019. And I've toured here with my dad a couple years before, and always just the best times. And the audiences in Ireland and the UK are just so stellar. They like are quiet, and they listen, and they know all the songs on the album, and they sing along when you want them to. And it's just really nice people. So I love being over here. I've got some close friends over here that I'm staying with right now. They just moved here from Los Angeles, and they're actually Italian, but they moved to Belfast. So we're just staying out here. We're actually in I wonder if I could show you. We're in a 200-year-old cottage.
What? That is great.
And it's on the sea. Let's see if you can see out the window.
Oh my God.
It's beautiful.
That's amazing. That monitor is absurd too. Look at that. That is gorgeous.
Yeah. So my friend is a film editor. She's a professional editor. So she's got her whole setup right there.
Whoa. So are you just renting this cottage, or is it yours?
She's renting it. She just found a house that she put an offer on, and they accepted. So she's renting this place until like May.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. So you're gonna not come back to the States at all this year?
If my dog wasn't still in Nashville, I'm going back to Nashville at the end of the month, and I'm gonna make preparations. I have a gig in Kentucky that's still on the books. It's like a Kentucky Derby private party. It's outdoors, like on some lake. So that's still on the book. So I'm staying until that gig. That's like May 1st, and then I'm planning to take my dog back to Europe and try to live in France.
Whoa. So why France? Is that like a fashion thing? Are you wanting to be around that kind of creative culture, or is it?
I love France. I've spent a lot of time there. I have people who are like family that live there. They're like my grandparents almost, but they're not related to me. And they live in the south of France. And for as long as I can remember, since I first met them in 2014, I went and visited them, and I've gone every year since. And I've just, all my goals have been, how can I get back to France? And so I'm just and I love speaking French, so I want to become fluent. So that's another goal of mine that I'm going to try to achieve this year. So France is the place, and they have croissants. I don't know if you knew that they have croissants. So
well, you confirmed it. I was on the fence whether they officially did, but
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's a weird, I believe we definitely have senses that are aware of things that necessarily might not be visible. And when you go to certain areas on this earth that are outside of the US, some of them feel more like home.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's very weird. Very strange. You found that in France. How weird is that?
Yeah.
Do you have any lineage in France? Anything like that?
Not that I know of. Not really.
Interesting.
I just really I connect with the culture and the people and yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. That's like very fun.
I already looked into bluegrass groups in Paris. So there's this group that meets once a month on a barge, and they play old time and bluegrass music. And I already reached out to them. I'm like, I'm coming with my banjo.
You do hit me as that person, which I'm very much so am the same. Where it's like, you might do before you ask. Is that kind of correct?
Sometimes, yeah. Sure.
Like that's really like that's a very real, that's like, especially in terms of playing music and getting up on stage and playing, like you very much so have to just go trial by fire. It's kind of like learning French. Like you can't really learn a language, whether it's music or whether it's a literal language of communication with words, unless you're really like going in real time and doing the thing. Like you can study Rosetta Stone, you can study music theory, whatever. But until you go out and do it and fuck up a couple times, that's when you're going to learn.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same as I learned banjo. You know, you can sit and play by yourself. You know, you can use YouTube backing tracks, but jamming with other people, like the pressure that you feel when it's your turn in the circle and they look at you and, and you've already played the solo that you memorized, you know? And you're just like, what? So it's learning that freedom to, it's okay to mess up at it. It's okay to fail, but that's where you learn the most, you know?
You do. And it's that concept of letting yourself let go of your ego, because the only person telling you to keep a hold of your ego is you. Like the rest of the world is not forcing you to do that. And so if you can kind of look out of that very odd, perspective of self and just allow yourself to fail a couple of times, you'll greatly improve. Like I'm glad you've experienced the same thing. It means it's probably true.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you can live through those moments of total failure and complete mortification,
Holy shit.
nothing's gonna phase you, because the next time you mess up, you're like, oh, this has happened before. I'll live.
It's very true. It's that same way with breaking up with people. It's that same way with maybe saying something wrong at a dinner and then having to apologize. And like my mouth, I just say things a lot of times before I think. I don't realize how it comes off. And I do the same thing musically. I'm realizing like the way I communicate as a musician is very similar to the way I communicate as a human. And it's like, it's better to maybe think about things before you play them. It's better to think about things before you say them. But yeah, the concept of failing, it's like, that's what I was doing an interview for a guitar magazine the other day, and they were like, what was your worst messed up on stage? And they were like, did you feel not professional or something? I'm like, what kind of concept is this? It's like the most professional person is the person who doesn't think about if they're going to mess up, but they know when they're going to, and they know how fast to recover.
Yeah. Oh, and the times that I mess up, without a doubt, is when you're playing and you start thinking, oh, I did that right. I'm doing so good. And then you mess up and you're like, shit. Or when you go, don't mess up. But when you just think about playing it and going for, you know, if you're saying don't mess up, you're going to mess up.
Are you familiar with Charles Bukowski at all?
No.
Charles Bukowski was like, very much so. You know how like Leonard Cohen sounds very New York in his writing, and so does like early Bob Dylan. Like Charles Bukowski was like LA, the depths of LA, just very poor, Skid Row, really terrible existence. But he created some beautiful poetry out of it. And on his gravestone is a quote from one of his poems, and it's "Don't try." And it took me like literally, I think 10 years of reading his work to be like, at first I read it, I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, what does that even mean? That's stupid. Like, don't try. You're gonna get there on your gravestone. It's like, no, and I'm realizing now it's like when you try, you're getting in the way of what really should happen. When you try, you're trying to like have an expectation that you're trying to fulfill. And you're probably going to get in the way of what really your full potential is. Yeah.
Yeah. Expectations are the enemy for sure. In every part of life, they are the enemy.
So like when you're going to move to Europe for a year, you're again, like I wouldn't help but like try to have some expectations, but what's your approach to that whole thing?
Well, it's really hard right now because everything still is closed off. Like the borders are closed, so I can't even plan. So I'm really trying to practice the idea of not worrying about it because I'm such a planner. Usually I'm like, all right, I want to have my Airbnb booked. I want to have blah, blah, blah. But I can't even book a flight because I don't know if I'll be able to fly into Paris. I know for a fact that I'm coming over here. I don't know what country I'll be able to get into. If ideal number one, I'm going into Paris. If I can't, I'll come up to Ireland and stay with my friend until things change, but I'm coming in May. I'm doing it. So I just have to kind of, go with the flow. Whatever the option that's open to me, I'm going to take it. And it's hard for I'm a weird cross between a control freak and a anything goes person. In some aspects of my life, I want it all planned out. I want to know exactly what's happening. But in other aspects, I could just be like, all right, I have this all planned, but now I want to do this. And that's totally fine. And some people get frustrated with me about that, but that's who I am.
That's very much so the same way with me. And it manifests in weird ways, like with travel, very much so like quantitative, very much so let's have everything planned. Let's have every mile, every hour spoken for. But I find with music, I'm not very much that way. Pretty much I like to let things fly and see where they go. How about yourself?
It just depends.
I get the idea that you like, I have the idea that perhaps when I watch you perform, I have a feeling you're just letting it happen. Right. But your records seem very well produced and well thought out.
Yeah, they're well thought out. And I think it came down to when I first started making music and records, like I was so stressed out, like with the live, I was like, it has to sound like the record. And I finally got over that. I don't know when, but now I'm just like, it's going to sound how we're going to sound today, and you're going to do an awesome solo and there's no steel on this song, but you're going to play some badass steel and it's going to be dope, So I'm getting so much more relaxed. Yeah, I say dope. What up?
I say dope randomly. Like when I say it, I'm like, it's like saying fire. It's like, what have I been on TikTok too much? Like, why am
I said sick the other day.
I was throwback. That's
yeah, but I said it to the wrong person. I mean, I'm not even worried about it at all, but I'm actually in the process of putting together a little book about my dad, about memories of him. And I'm interviewing people. I'm in the process of interviewing his friends and coworkers and people that were in his life right now. And I was interviewing Jimmy Webb, the songwriter, the other day.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I said, I was transcribing the interview and I was like, yeah, that'd be sick, Jimmy.
And he was like, sure.
Yeah. He's so great. He's such an awesome dude.
I'm assuming you've read Songsmith a couple times then.
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say I've started it a couple times, but got distracted.
Yeah.
So when I get home. Yeah. And he also he recently came out with an amazing autobiography that's so full of cool stories. Oh gosh, what's it called? Oh, it's called The Cake in the Rain, like from MacArthur Park. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Ooh, you should definitely read that. But yeah, when I get home, I'm going to read through Songsmith and Cake in the Rain because Jimmy's just got the coolest stories. And interviewing him is so amazing because he remembers things in such clarity and detail. And he's a songwriter. He's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. And when he's recounting his memories and I'm, after the fact, I record it and then I'm typing them out and I'm like, I don't have to change a thing. I don't have to paraphrase. He's telling this story as if he's sitting there and typing out and editing a book. Like, it's amazing.
My God, it's like, that's really beautiful. When did you become aware of Jimmy's work in terms of you being able to be a fan of it for not being part of your father's legacy, but for being just that these are just great songs?
Oh gosh. I mean, definitely when I started writing songs of my own, you know, when you
Right.
start doing something, you realize how hard it is to really come up with that great stuff.
Yeah, it is hard.
And yeah, and
Thanks.
you start studying other people's work and you start going, wow, oh my gosh. Yeah, so Jimmy's work is just such poetry. Have you ever heard of a song that he wrote called Sun Shower?
No. What is Sun
Okay.
Shower?
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and the only recorded version of it is a live show that my dad did. So it's just him on acoustic guitar, and my dad came up with the arrangement, but Jimmy's chords in that song, like I play that a lot, like in my live shows or in songwriters rounds, because I just want to show people, like, it's not just Wichita Lineman, and by the time I get to Phoenix, you know, this song is like pure poetry put to the most interesting chords you've ever heard. And my dad did this cool guitar version of it. So check it out. It's Glenn Campbell live Sun Shower.
Sun Shower. That
I
I
bet
just love that.
you're gonna immediately want to learn it. Like it's crazy.
I've learned so much of what your dad does. And going back to the concept of not doing things like the record, it's like your dad was in an early way, especially like at his scale of success, like one of the earliest examples of a person I can find really embracing that. You know, especially I don't know if I'm sure you have like watched like Farm Aid. I think it was like 84 or something like that.
Who was playing in that one?
Oh my God. I think Jimmy was playing with your dad, if I'm not mistaken, but your dad had on like this absurdly huge guitar strap that like went from his shoulder all the way to like his left breast. Like it was huge. And I forget what guitar it was. They did like
Was it an
Southern
eagle?
Nights.
Is there an eagle on the strap or something?
Yes, there was. Yeah. Yeah, there absolutely was. You know the strap.
I do know the strap, but I don't think I've seen it. My dad played Farm Aid. I've only seen videos of Clean, you know, Clean playing Farm Aid and stuff.
It was
It was at Live Aid or Farm Aid?
Oh, you know, it might have been Live Aid.
It was Live Aid. Okay, I got them crossed, but yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah. They do like I think they did Southern Nights, Wichita Lineman, and Rhinestone Cowboy, and then just like one more song. It was like a short appearance.
Oh, that's
He's
so
like
cool.
he's flying. Like he's literally like, it's the feeling of, for people who don't play music, this might be hard to talk about, but there's a literal flow that you can get to on stage where you are watching it happen and it is just flying. And it's like you're just going, and what's coming out is beautiful. And he was in that zone, like especially on Southern Nights. And it was one of the first things like I had gotten into from Glenn Campbell was that actual performance. And my God, man, he just let it go. Like melody, guitar.
I'm gonna YouTube it as soon as we get off the call. I'm totally gonna look at that.
That's beautiful that you're able to embrace your who in who your father was for you knowing who he was, but then also for how he was to the world. It's interesting. I have a lot of friends who have very successful parents, both within music, within business, within a lot of domains of expertise in life. And you have an exceptional case of not really talking about it too much, where you're not trying to like rest on that success, but then also like letting the influence shine through in a way that is really true and really like well practiced. Like, you know, listening to Something Lovely, I was thinking, oh, maybe there's going to be a song about her dad on there. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't think there is, like, in any overt way, but the influence really shines through in just who you are as a person musically.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there actually is a song about my dad. It was my first single, and I actually released it in 2015, back when I was with Big Machine. But it never made it. It wasn't on my first album, and it's one of my most well-known songs. It's a song that I wrote called "Remembering," about my dad's Alzheimer's. So it's a very personal song to me, about dealing with going from my dad taking care of me, you know, father-daughter relationship, to daughter taking care of a father. So I thought it was really important to have that on my second record, which is, you know, when you look at any artist, you look at their records. You don't go to a one-off single necessarily. So I wanted it to be a part of my body of work. Wow. And also the producer, Kai Welch. He co-wrote the song with me, so I wanted to record a version with him as well. But yeah, and speaking of like, famous people's kids who eschew that part of their lives because they want to make it on their own, quote unquote.
Right.
Like, obviously, it's a part of who I am, and it would be doing myself a disservice to ignore the influence, the amazing influence that my dad had on me, because it's part of who I am. But it's when the negative connotation comes from when you lean on it as a crutch, and that's all you are. That's the only thing that you toot as your identity is, I'm Glenn Campbell's daughter, I'm blah blah.
Right.
As opposed to, yeah, I'm Glenn Campbell's daughter, but this is who I am. And oh, if you want to talk about that some more, we can, but we can also talk about anything else,
Right.
like, don't use it as a crutch. Just use it as something that you love about yourself,
Whoa, it's very brave to love yourself. Like that's a very, that's a hard thing to do, especially when other people have expectations on how you should do it. It's also not a hard thing to do. Like, but it's like, I think a lot of people would be thinking, well, if that was me, I would do it this way. And they might, kind of diss you for not really going about it that way. You do a very classy job at it because it's something that's either done with class or something that's not done with grace. Very well done. Was that something that came in your raising? Like you seem to have a very good foundation of self-confidence and understanding. But that doesn't seem like something you found like in your 30s, obviously. Like it seems like you've had it for a while. Do you think that was reflected in the way you were raised, or
absolutely.
Yeah.
My mom and dad raised my brothers and I to be, and me.
How many siblings do you have? Wait, do you have no sisters? It's just you?
So I have two brothers, two full brothers, and then my dad had some other marriages before my mom, and so I've got some half siblings, and not super close to a lot of them.
Sure.
Some of them have some issues,
Mm-hmm.
but my two brothers that I grew up with are wonderful, and our parents, we grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. My mom made it a point to get my dad to move out of LA and to Phoenix because he had a drug and alcohol problem at the time. And she wanted to get him out of that. So she needed to get him away from the bad influences and all the friends that were going to take him out to parties and stuff. So she moved the family to Arizona, and that's where my brothers and I were raised. I lived in Arizona until I was 18 years old. And so we were not a part of the music industry. Everyone assumes we were born and raised in Nashville, but I didn't even go to Nashville until I was in my early 20s with my dad on tour. I know this is a little this is crazy, but like my first show in Nashville, this is so like, oh, look at her, does she think she's special?
Yeah.
My first show in Nashville was the Ryman Auditorium.
Yeah. It's
I
my
was
dream venue to sell out.
And it was not lost on me. I was just like, how is this my life? This is amazing. Yeah, it's my dream to sell it out as me someday. I've played there many, many times since then, but like never as Ashley Campbell, except, at the Opry and stuff. But I would, like Margot Price just, did several sold out nights there. And like, I'm just like so happy for her. And I'm just like, maybe someday I'll get to do that.
Yeah, my God, Margot Price is what a cool story. I used to watch her play at the 5 Spot, which is just like a dive bar in East Nashville. When I was like 18, 19, I would sneak in there and I would put in like a small liquor straw in my cup of Coca-Cola. So they thought it was like I was old enough. And Margot would be playing in there to nobody. And it was just like, man, this talent is absurd. Like, what's happening? Like, why doesn't this person have any recognition? Then, give it, I was called at 8 years. And then it's like, here she is doing 3 nights at the Ryman. It's like, there it is.
Yeah. Well, they call it a 10-year town for a reason, I think. I'm coming up on 8 years this April, so we'll see.
Damn. Yeah. Well, whatever. Time is weird. Time's a relative concept.
It is.
Do you find that living in Nashville is good for yourself, creatively speaking?
I love living in Nashville, but obviously I have like aspirations to live abroad. But I think I need to explore that wish, that desire to live abroad. And then at the end of this year, hopefully I'll know like, okay, I want to go back to Nashville and make a real home there, or maybe I want to stay abroad. I don't know. I'll always have roots in Nashville. But Nashville, I love how accessible great musicians are in Nashville, and it's easy to collaborate and be creative in that way. But honestly, I find that for me, I get so distracted that I'm more creative when I'm somewhere else, when I'm away from the distractions. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm here in this cottage in Ireland and I'm getting so much done, you know?
Yeah. So like what's the concept of you getting things done? You said that you do journaling. Does that help with your writing? What's your whole approach to the creative process? That's always something I love to ask people because everyone is literally different. And that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. I try to journal every day. I just started doing this thing where for the first 30 minutes of the morning, I don't even look at my phone and I
Yeah.
just take out my journal and I write for 30 minutes
Yeah.
just about what happened yesterday or what I dreamed about or what's going on in my mind right now. And I'm trying, I'm not like super consistent at it, but starting to just meditate or just spend 10 minutes in silence with my eyes closed every day as well, just to see what comes across my mind, and things like that. And but one of my favorite ways to be creative is to turn on this mic and a little verb like we were talking about at the beginning and and just play with a guitar. And when you hear it, because I love hearing it it
Mhm.
sounds like a finished product. It sounds like you're standing on a stage and listening to the verbs slap back from a big theater, and it's so inspiring, and I start writing music that way. And so I really enjoy doing that, and just I love being alone. It's so nice.
I really love being alone. That was something I had a hard time empathizing with when I saw like the general population being like, I hate this quarantine thing. It's like, well, you don't play music. Like you don't get it then. It's like that
I don't
whole
know,
thing.
did you see the meme that Jordan Tice made? Do you know Jordan Tice?
No, I'm not hip to him. What's Jordan's
Oh,
deal?
you gotta check him out. You should totally have him on the podcast. He's an amazing guitarist, and he did this meme when the quarantine started where it was like everybody else, oh no, I'm all alone. What am I gonna do at home all day? And then it was a picture of him with lasers coming out of his eyes holding a guitar, and it was like guitarist be like.
That's so true. That's so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, there's a weird thing that goes on in our minds. Like, how is it that we access things that are so like meant for other people in complete solitude? Like that contrast really freaks me out. Like, I don't like the thing that I bring to the world is the thing that I find only when I'm by myself. Like, that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, well, really, what you're bringing to the world is I think, I think it's what you want to say to yourself. Not necessarily what you want to say to other people. You end up saying it to other people, but I don't know. That's kind of how I see it, I guess.
Whoa. The thing that I've been trying to think about now lately with music is like, am I discovering more of who I am with the more time that I spend with it? Or am I just trying to like fulfill like some goal that's like maybe monetarily based or esteem based, like playing on somebody's album or trying like I think the concept of trying to fulfill things by discovering who you are, like you just said, is very real. Are you finding that journaling is helping you with that whole concept? Are you writing more songs? Or I know I had a friend. I was just talking with my friend, tallest man on earth, Christian Matson. I didn't pronounce his last name wrong. He's Swedish, so it's a hard last name. Sorry, Christian.
He'll understand.
He will. He's a very kind and down to earth guy. And he said he wasn't really able to finish a lot of songs last year, but he had a lot of like finished songs, like a lot of unfinished songs.
That's me too. Absolutely. Like I've had so many ideas and I've written them all down, and I have so many songs in my bank that I have like ideas, like little jump off points for, but I don't know. I do believe that, I mean, obviously there's a mix of, all right, you got to sit down and you actually got to put in the work, but there's also an element of you have to be inspired to do it as well. So I'm a firm believer in, a song was meant to be written exactly when you write it. And so I'll get to them, and
Wow.
and at that moment, whenever I do get to them, I will have had the perfect experience in my belt to write that song, even though I thought of it a while ago,
Whoa. Yeah. Well, that's so cool. I really am envious that you're like naturally arriving at that. I've had to really think about that. I wonder if that comes from you. I mean, you might have like this, your perspective on life might be different than most people's because people move to Nashville and they like have to make it work in like a certain period of time, or they run out of cash or they run out of support socially. And they have to move back home. And I felt like that can be like Jim Carrey says, like, right, like you do things out of two reasons. You either do it out of love or you do it out of fear. And it's unfortunate because like living in a city like Nashville, a lot of the time it takes a very brave person to pursue something purely out of love, even though that might actually in the long run give you the best results possible. A lot of people pursue things out of fear. I got to take this gig, even though the artist is shitty and I don't like the music at all, but it's going to like pay for like what I got to put in my freezer. And it's like, but you're having this like very like genuine love and like relationship with music that no one's pressuring you to do this. And you're arriving at that very nice truth. How long have you kind of had that? You're like, you don't seem like you're in a hurry at all to do that, like to try to sell out the rhyme, and you're not like making a vision board being like, if it doesn't happen by then, I'm fucked.
Well, there you go with expectations again. If you write a song with the expectation, this is going to take me right to the top. You wrote the song for the wrong reasons, but I spent a lot of time waiting around in that fear-based writing pool, let me tell you.
Oh,
and
really?
I've never been so depressed in my entire life, you know, when I was with a big record label and there was so much pressure to write for radio. You need a radio hit. And I was miserable. I was considering quitting music altogether and going to culinary school or something. Like,
nice. Yeah.
Because I love cooking, but I was just like, if this is how it's going to be, if this is what it takes to make money and be successful, like I can do anything else and still play music for me, but maybe I'm not going to make money doing music, and that's okay, I guess. But, you know, I did hang on, and I quit the pressure of all of that. And I feel so much better. And, you know, I write because I want to write something, or I need to write something, and not because, you know, I need to have a hit, because that's, you know, gross.
Well, and it's also like, wait, why do I need to write something for radio? Because like these people that work at this label are going to promote this song that I don't even get to choose what the single is. I don't get to choose like what the narrative is to the public. And I don't even get to choose who is listening to it. Like, it's not, and you don't get to choose that with social media or when you put something out on Spotify, but it's like less like, and then it costs a lot of money to promote those singles too. Like, and you're going to have to like pay that back eventually, unless you have the funds up front to do so, which very few people do.
Yeah.
And so you get into this, like my friend Joe Bonamassa, who sold the Ryman out, I think over 10 times.
Yeah.
Independently.
Got crazy numbers. Yeah.
And it's like he built it all himself. And we're in this era now where you can literally build it yourself if you put in the work, to not only put in the work to literally to like get it out there, but like to put in the work to like develop who you are as a person. Like it's so easy to think that you can just move to Nashville and write a song for radio and like that's what get you successful. It's like, who's to say that song just does well for a couple months? You play a couple state fairs, you make $50,000 and that's it. Like that's, odds are like that's really what happens. And it's weird that people are promoting like this like short-term based goal. It's like a get rich quick with music. It's like, why not actually just put in the work, find out who you are, and build a real connection with your fan base and talk to those people for as long as you want to talk, however many years that is, which is exactly what your dad did. I mean, up until he died, even after the music lives on, it gets bigger. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I want to like myself at the end of the day, because when you think about it, like when I was trying, write for radio, you need a radio hit. I don't even like anything they're playing on the radio. Why would I want to be in that group of people?
Right. Like, what's that yield? Yeah. I don't get it.
What? No, money, nothing. Like, I can make money doing anything else, you know? Like, and yeah, it's just, I lost my track of thought, but.
Well, it's true. Yeah. It's like, it's very weird that people tell you that this should be your goal with your talent. It's like, what? That's so crazy to me. I wish like that's something in Nashville that I have a hard time understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very odd. Like, have you ever played Whiskey Jam? I think I've seen you there a couple times.
Yeah. I've played Whiskey Jam like once or twice, I think.
It's like, you know, it's like just people trying to like, there's like that. It's kind of like LA-ish. which I love LA. Like I really do. But there is like there are certain types of people that their only motive is to like, oh, you're with this publishing company, you're with BMG. Okay, let me get your number. Like, let's write so I can try to get a cut. It's like, that's very social climate. It doesn't ever pay off in the long run.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's so many people that are like, oh, we should write sometime. I'm like, I've been using an excuse like, yeah, I don't know you. I've been using an excuse like, no, I'm only doing solo writes right now.
That's great.
I'm not co-writing right now.
I don't blame you. Yeah, I only co-write with, I think, about 5 or 6 people. And that took me 3 years to find those people.
Well, you have to go through those co-writes where you get paired with someone that you have nothing in common with, and everything that comes out of their mouth you hate.
Yeah, it's like
and you're just stuck with them for 3 hours, and you're trying to make up excuses like, oh, I have diarrhea. Oh no.
This might be the best thing ever to end on is if Ashley shows up to a co-write with a banjo, and then we're trying to write a song for radio and you have to leave because you said you have diarrhea. This might be the best thing that's ever happened on Music Row in recent history.
I've never used that as an excuse to get out of something, but it's like my dream to use that someday.
That's so that's so Louis C.K. It's so like the thing you shouldn't say.
Yeah, I just want them wondering, like, why would she feel like she should share that with me? She should have made up anything else. Like, is it true? Like, I want them thinking about it.
I want them thinking about it. Damn, that's really funny. I wish I could have seen some of your comedy. Are you doing any of that? Like, is there any like archive of that or anything like that? I had no idea.
Oh my God. I never did stand-up comedy really, but I did some sketch comedy and improv, and there's a couple videos. It's very silly, but I did, my friend, Dennis Hemphill was a Sunday company member at the Groundlings, and he had this pretty popular YouTube channel called Humpy, Humpy. And it was back, when American Idol was still a really big deal. And we did this fake American Idol audition. And I played this character called Mary. Crazy Mary. And it blew up. It went viral. It got something like 14 million views.
Fuck yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. And it was insane. And so people were recognizing me on the street. They're like, it's Crazy Mary. Hey, I saw you on YouTube. I was like, great. You'll see the character and you'll be like, oh, she doesn't want to be recognized for that. But yeah, it's very silly. I did she was just totally insane, and she did a Randy Newman style song. I was like, you got a friend in me.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
I think if people can make fun of you, that's a good sign of success. Like if you are so unique to where you can be made fun of, like that's a very real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I know who I am. It's fine.
You really do. That's a beautiful thing to come. I love talking to people who have a strong sense of self. Like it very much so reassures me. And I think it's very valuable for people who are listening to just know that it's all right to be who you are. And like, that's part of your job is to try to figure out who that person is. And you seem through your music, of course, I felt that. And now speaking to you as a person, it's even more reaffirmed. So thank you for your time. It's a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I was so pleased when you reached out because I actually saw you playing at Roberts on Broadway. Mm-hmm. You must have been like 19 or something. It was back in 2013, and it was my first time because I just moved to Nashville. It was my first time on Broadway at a honky tonk.
Wow.
Yeah, and you guys were playing, and I was like, this is amazing. And whoever took me there was like, yeah, that's Daniel Donato. Am I saying your name right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. I just realized I've never said it to you. But yeah, so, and you were playing and they're like, yeah, he's not even 21. He's not even supposed to be in here, but he is because he's so good. And I just was so impressed with you. And I was like, ever since that moment, I'm like, yeah, anyone who wants to go to any tourists who come to town or friends who are visiting Nashville, I'm like, Roberts is the only place with good music. That's the only place you go. It is true.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's my dream to do live at the Ryman and then go play at Roberts and put that on the record. Because
that was amazing.
I know, I've played there over 500 times, and it's just like, I really know that building very well. It's a magical building, man. I'm glad that it resonates with you.
In there. People still two-step in there,
I know.
It's the only bar that doesn't have disgusting current country covers playing,
There is no Old Town Road at Robert's Western World.
Yeah, thank God.
Beautiful. Well, hey, I wish you happy travels, happy New Year, and everything else on all your endeavors. Thank you for the time, Ashley. This was fun.
Thanks so much. Hopefully we'll hang out soon.
Hope you all enjoyed this conversation with Miss Ashley Campbell. Please do indeed go check out her record, and her Instagram page is very enjoyable, very well curated. If you all feel free to support the Cosmic Country podcast, The Lost Highway, on Patreon, on the link below. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I really do like to hear what